In the busy streets of a large American city, where bustle is a constant and faces intertwine in a whirlwind of routines and dreams, we meet Sam, an elderly street vendor. His steps, although slow, are firm and determined, and his presence is marked by an aura of dignity and resilience. With his cart full of simple products such as handicrafts and small household utensils, he navigates the sidewalks, always in search of a customer who cares about what he has to offer. Sam lives in a small apartment on the 4th floor of an old building. The walls are thin and worn, but he has made the space a cozy home, filled with black and white photos of his grandchildren, who often visit and bring a little joy to his lonely routine. The furniture is simple, but each piece has a story. From the wooden table where he sits to plan his day to the chair he inherited from his mother, each object connects him to the past and the memories of a life full of challenges. In poor health, Sam often feels the weight of the years. His body is a reflection of his struggles, marked by scars that tell stories of sacrifice and resilience. However, his determination never wavers. He gets up early every morning, not just out of necessity, but out of a deep desire to have a purpose. Selling his products isn't just a way of earning a living. It's the way he's found to stay active and interact with people. For Sam, every sale is a connection, every smile a reminder that there is still good in the world. Throughout his walks, he becomes a familiar figure to passers-by. Children wave to him, adults exchange greetings, and older people share stories from their own lives, creating a web of interactions that keeps him in good spirits. He is known for his honest character, always willing to help, even when his own needs are urgent. The products he sells are simple, but he presents them with a passion that makes each item seem priceless. One day, while he was arranging his cart under the shade of a tree, a neighbor approached him. "Still trying to sell those trinkets, Sam?" asked the man with a mischievous smile. The teasing is lighthearted, but carries a tone of disdain, a hint of a skepticism that many have towards street vending. Sam responds with a tired smile, his eyes shining with a spark of determination. "Everyone needs a bit of luck in life, don't they?" Sam's answer, although simple, reveals his philosophy of life. For him, every day is a new opportunity, a chance to change his destiny. He doesn't let difficulties get to him, but faces them head-on with a spirit that doesn't give in. As the day progresses, he continues to sell his products. Interactions with customers are more than business transactions. They are moments of human connection. He listens to people's stories, gives advice to young dreamers, and smiles at the elderly who share their memories. Sam believes that, in the midst of difficulties, empathy and kindness are essential. Every smile he receives and every gratitude he expresses helps to warm his heart. As the sun begins to set, tinting the sky with shades of orange and purple, Sam prepares to return home. He closes his cart, mentally counting what he has managed to sell that day. Although the sales aren't huge, every little bit of progress is a victory. Sam feels satisfied because, despite his financial limitations and fragile health, he continues to fight. He knows the journey is long, but hope shines like a beacon in his heart. At home, when he looks at the photos of his grandchildren, an involuntary smile forms on his face. He thinks about the future and how, despite the difficulties, he wants to leave them a legacy of perseverance and honesty. Sam may be a traveling salesman, but he is also a man with dreams and an unwavering determination to overcome them, one day at a time. This is the essence of Sam the Peddler, an example that even in the midst of hardship, hope and integrity can shine brightly. As the sun slowly rises over the horizon, bringing new light to the city, Sam prepares for another day's work. He looks around the small space where he lives, every corner reminding him of the struggles he has faced over the years. In the back of his mind, a pulsating dream motivates him to expand his small street vending business. He longs for a better future, not just for himself, but above all for his grandchildren. The idea of providing them with a more comfortable life full of opportunities is the force that drives him to get up every day, even when his health and finances give him reason to give up. Sam knows that his health is no longer the same. The years of hard work have left their mark. His body doesn't respond as it used to. Back pain and constant tiredness are unwelcome companions on his daily journey. Every movement, from carrying his cart to setting up his small tent, is a reminder of the limitations his age has imposed. But even so, he refuses to let it get him down. The image of his grandchildren smiling, playing and dreaming of a bright future keeps him going. The debt that haunts him is another shadow that hangs over his life. A loan he took out years ago in the hope of taking a step forward in his business still weighs heavily on his shoulders. With limited finances, every penny counts. Sam knows that the situation won't improve on its own, and that if he can't pay off his debts, he could even lose what he has built up with so much effort. The thought of leaving his grandchildren with this burden torments him, but he doesn't allow himself to succumb to despair. Sam remembers the conversations he has had with his grandchildren, who always ask him why he works so hard. "Grandpa, can't you get some rest?" They don't fully understand the pressures he faces, but he smiles at them and replies, "I work hard to make sure you have opportunities. I want you to have a better life than I did." These words, though softly spoken, carry a weight that resonates in his heart. The desire to provide something more for them keeps him motivated, even when everything seems difficult. Every day, when he opens his cart, Sam appreciates every moment that he can sell something. For him, every interaction is not just a transaction, but an opportunity to connect with other people. He loves hearing his customers' stories, their laughter, and even their complaints. The sound of a child's giggle, the warm greeting of a frequent customer, or a simple thank you mean the world to him. He clings to these small joys as a source of hope. In his conversations, he often says, "Every sale is a step closer to my dream. Every smile I provoke is a small victory." But difficulties are always lurking. On a rainy day, for example, he finds himself struggling to attract customers. People rush past him, protected by umbrellas, without looking at the simple products he has to offer. Sam feels his frustration growing, but soon remembers that the sun always shines again. He raises his head and tries to put on his best smile, even though inside he feels discouraged. One day, while trying to sell some handicrafts, a customer asks him, "Why don't you sell something more attractive? Something that really catches the eye?" Sam pauses for a moment, pondering the question. "Because every item I sell has a story. They represent the work of people who, like me, struggle to make a living, and each one has the potential to make someone happy." The customer, surprised, looks at him for a moment before buying a small ornament. Sam feels satisfied, even if the sale wasn't great. As he walks home at the end of another day, he reflects on the challenges he faces. The daily struggle can be exhausting, but hope never leaves him. With his eyes fixed on the future, Sam continues to dream big, even if his current circumstances keep him stuck in a simple life. He promises himself that he will do everything in his power to make this dream reality. Reality may be harsh, but Sam is determined. He carries the hope that one day his efforts will be rewarded and that his grandchildren will be able to look at him with pride, knowing that, despite all the difficulties, he never gave up fighting for a better future for them. This determination, this daily struggle, is what defines Sam, the street vendor who refuses to give in the face of adversity. He firmly believes that, with perseverance and hard work, one day he will be able to achieve his dream. It was an ordinary morning in Sam's life, full of the familiar routines that gave him a certain comfort. The sky was clear, and the city was gradually waking up to the sun rising from behind the tall buildings. He was on his usual walk through the streets, pulling his cart while thinking about the day's sales and the interactions he would have. Each step carried the hope that perhaps today would be the day when everything would change. However, nothing could prepare him for what was about to happen. As he walked, Sam passed a fruit stand where a vendor was arranging the goods in a colorful display. The fruit was fresh and attractive, but something else caught Sam's eye. The sunlight was reflecting brilliantly on an object that was almost hidden among the boxes of apples and pears. Curious, Sam approached to investigate further. What he found made his heart race. There, among the fruit, was a luxurious watch from a famous brand that he knew, but had never dared to imagine holding in his hands. The watch had a sophisticated design, with an impeccable leather strap and a shiny dial that elegantly displayed Roman numerals. Sam had never seen such a beautiful and expensive object so close to him. It was as if a piece of the world of wealth and glamour had fallen right before his eyes. He crouched down slowly, his body complaining about the position, but his excitement kept him focused. The watch was in perfect condition, and he immediately felt an urge to keep it. After all, selling such an item could solve many of his financial problems. The amount he could get from this sale was enough to pay off the debt that plagued him and even allow him to expand his business. However, as soon as he took the watch into his hands, a wave of internal conflict began to rise up. Sam knew his essence well. Ever since he was a little boy, learning the importance of honesty from his parents, he knew that it wasn't his. The possibility of selling the watch and changing his life was tempting, but the idea of keeping something that didn't belong to him made his heart hesitate. He looked at the object and, in the midst of all the temptation, decided that he couldn't let himself go. That watch belonged to someone, and he had a responsibility to try to return it to its owner. With this resolution, Sam began to ask passers-by if anyone had lost a watch. People hurried past, paying no attention to his search. He turned to the fruit seller of the stall. "Hey, buddy, you haven't seen anyone lose a watch around here, have you?" he asked, his voice a mixture of hope and concern. The vendor looked at him, raising his eyebrows. "A watch? No, I haven't seen anything like that. But if you're thinking of selling it, you can make a lot of money." The suggestion sent a chill through Sam's stomach. The temptation grew, but he remembered his grandchildren, how he wanted them to have an example of honesty and integrity. With a sad smile, he shook his head and said goodbye to the salesman, determined not to give in to temptation. Sam began to walk through the streets, holding the watch carefully as he thought of possible ways to find the owner. Looking around, he realized that every corner could be the place where the person who lost the watch could be. The city was full of people with stories, and he felt he had to do the right thing. He decided that he would look in neighborhood stores and jewelry stores, where the owner could probably be found. The day progressed, and Sam headed for a jewelry store he always saw while walking. Maybe they know someone who has lost a watch like that, he thought. As soon as he arrived, he felt the fresh air and the scent of expensive jewelry, an atmosphere that contrasted with his everyday reality. He hesitated at the entrance, but his determination soon took over. If necessary, he would do everything he could to return the watch. Entering, he was greeted by an attendant who looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. "What do you want, sir?" he asked, with an expression that made it clear he didn't expect much from someone like Sam. He held up his watch, his heart beating faster. "I found this on the sidewalk. I'm trying to find the owner." The attendant examined the watch, his eyes widening in surprise. "Where did you find it?" The question made Sam feel that perhaps hope was beginning to shine through. "At the fruit stand outside," he replied, explaining the situation with the sincerity that had always guided him. "I don't want to sell it. I want to give it back to its owner." That moment was the starting point of a journey that would change his life forever. The decision to act according to his principles, even in the face of temptation, would open doors he had never imagined possible. The search for truth and honesty would lead him down an unexpected path, and Sam had no idea how much this choice would affect his future and that of his family. Life, with its twists and turns, was beginning to unfold in a way he could never have predicted. With the luxurious watch carefully tucked away in his bag, Sam left the jewelry store feeling torn. The weight of the object in his possession was much more than physical. It was an emotional burden that weighed heavily on his heart. As he walked, the sound of his boots echoed on the cobblestones, but his mind was far away, immersed in a sea of doubt. He knew that selling the watch could solve many of his financial problems. The amount he could get was tempting, the perfect opportunity to pay off his debts, and perhaps even expand his small business. But the other part of his conscience, the part that had always guided him, insisted that he couldn't simply abandon his integrity. Sitting on a bench in the park, Sam looked at the watch, which glittered in the sunlight, as a symbol of the wealth he would never have. The beauty of the object was undeniable, but the idea of selling it and profiting from something that didn't belong to him bothered him deeply. He remembered his mother's words, "Honesty is the best policy, my son. What counts is our dignity, not what we own." The memory brought a wave of nostalgia and pain, mixed with renewed determination. He didn't want to teach his grandchildren that it was acceptable to take advantage, even in difficult situations. They needed to know that integrity and honesty were values that had to be upheld above all else. While he was reflecting, some children started playing in the park, laughing and running around. Their innocent smiles brought to Sam's mind the image of his grandchildren. He wanted them to grow up in a world where values were respected, where people could be counted on, and where honesty still meant something. How could he look at them and feel worthy if he acted contrary to the principles he had always preached? That question tormented him. He wanted his grandchildren to have an example to follow, and the last thing he wanted was to become the reason for them to stray from that path. What if I don't find the owner? What if he never turns up? He thought, his mind swirling with uncertainty. The idea of continuing to search seemed increasingly tiresome and discouraging. Sam ran a hand through his gray hair, feeling the weight of responsibility. It wasn't just a watch, it was a lesson about life and what really mattered. At that moment, he realized that, as important as money was, there was something much more valuable at stake: his conscience. Getting up from the bench, Sam made a decision. He couldn't leave the watch in his possession, as it would go against everything he believed in. He decided that he would do his best to find the owner of the watch, even if he wasn't sure how to go about it. The uncertainty was terrifying, but he was willing to face the challenge. Heartbroken but determined, he began to draw up a plan. The first thing I need to do is ask all the places I usually go, he muttered himself. Feeling more confident, Sam thought of all the stores and establishments he frequented. The people who worked there knew him, and he hoped they could help him find clues about the owner of the watch. He decided that he would visit the jewelry store again, not only to look for more information, but also to ask for help. On the way back, the chill in his stomach grew, but every step he took towards his decision became firmer. I'll talk to the attendant and explain the situation. Maybe they know the owner. If not, at least I'm doing the right thing, she thought. The feeling of having made a decision, albeit difficult and fraught with uncertainty, gave him a new impetus. Whatever happened, he wasn't willing to compromise his values. As he walked through the streets, the weight of the watch no longer seemed so oppressive. It was a reminder of what he was willing to do for what he believed was right. He felt he was at a turning point, a moment when his actions could influence not only his destiny, but also the way his grandchildren would see him in the future. The idea of teaching them the importance of integrity was more valuable than any amount of money he could get. When he reached the jewelry store, he took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline rush through his veins. The door opened with a clang of bells, and the clerk recognized him. "You again? What brought you here?" asked the young man, with a curious look on his face. Sam felt it was time to open up. He talked about the watch and his decision to find its owner. The clerk listened attentively, surprised by Sam's determination. "It's admirable what you're doing," said the clerk, with a touch of respect in his voice. "I'm going to help you. We can post it on social media, or even contact some of the customers who usually come here. Maybe someone will recognize the watch." Sam felt a wave of gratitude. He knew that, regardless of the outcome, he was on the right path, a path that could bring not only financial relief, but also a return to his dignity. He was about to embark on a journey full of uncertainty, but now, more than ever, he was ready to face whatever lay ahead, guided by his integrity and the desire to do the right thing. With newfound determination pulsing through his veins, Sam began his search for the owner of the luxury watch. The idea of returning it filled him with renewed purpose. But he would soon discover that the path to honesty is not always paved with flowers. The sun shone brightly, reflecting the hopes he carried. But as he made his way through the city streets, reality began to present itself as a complicated and confusing maze. Sam decided that the best place to start would be the cafe where he usually had breakfast. He had overheard many conversations there and thought that maybe someone knew something. As soon as he entered, the aroma of fresh coffee and baked goods enveloped him, bringing momentary comfort. He greeted the owner, a man called Miguel, who always welcomed him with a smile. "So, what are you up to today?" Miguel asked as he cleared a table. Sam hesitated, trying to find the right words. "I found a watch, Miguel. A very nice watch. I was wondering if you'd ever heard anyone talking about a watch being lost around here." Miguel's gaze turned curious, but his expression soon changed to one of dismay. "No, I haven't heard anything about it. But if you want, I can ask the customers when they arrive." Thanking Miguel, Sam sat down at a table at the back, watching the cafe go by. People came and went, oblivious to the dilemma that plagued him. He began to wonder if he had really made the right decision. The idea of looking for the owner seemed more and more like an impossible mission. Doubts began to creep in. What if no one knew who the owner was? What if I was wasting my time? After a few hours with no leads, he decided to go out and explore other stores nearby. He walked to a small antique store where there were a variety of fascinating objects. The owner, an elderly woman called Clara, was always kind to him. Sam went in, hoping that perhaps she could help. Clara, I hope you're well. I found a watch, and I was wondering if you'd ever heard anyone talking about a lost watch. It's very nice, from a famous brand. Clara looked at him with a puzzled expression. A watch? No, dear, I haven't heard anything. But you can leave it here for a few days. If anyone asks, I can write down your number and let you know. Sam thanked him, but the idea of simply leaving the watch with someone seemed strange. He wanted more than that. He wanted to help find the owner, not just wait for someone to turn up. Actually, I'm actively looking for the owner. If you know of anyone, please let me know, he said, his voice laden with hope, but the words sounded empty even to him. Discouraged, Sam left the store, the weight of the watch in his pocket now seeming heavier. Walking through the streets, he began to ask acquaintances, people he knew by sight, but the answer was always the same. No one knew where the watch could have come from. He approached a group of workers who were taking a break and asked them the question, "Has anyone lost a watch around here?" The men laughed, shaking their heads. "No, Sam, you won't find anyone who's lost a watch that nice in our area," one of them commented with a smile. Sam forced a smile back, but their laughter echoed in his ears like a painful reminder that he could be fooling himself. Each interaction made him more frustrated and insecure about his decision to follow this path. He began to question himself, as if an inner voice was challenging him. Why don't you just sell that watch and improve your life? You don't need that kind of pain. The day passed, and he continued his search, now visiting more stores, but the answers were always the same. Lack of interest or simple ignorance. He felt like a boat adrift, bobbing in rough waters, not knowing where to go. Maybe I should have sold the watch when I had the chance, he thought as he looked in the store windows. Temptation surrounded him like a fog, and doubt crept into his heart. Finally, tired and disillusioned, Sam decided to return home. The city that had once seemed full of possibilities now presented itself as a labyrinth of frustration. He sat down on a bench in the park again, taking a deep breath as he observed the people around him. Life went on, while he struggled with his doubts and uncertainties. The image of his grandchildren visited him once again. He wondered if they would understand the weight of his decision. It was a difficult choice, and at that moment he felt more lost than ever. What if I can't find the owner? What if it's all for nothing? The questions echoed in his mind, but deep down, Sam still clung to a spark of hope. He still wanted to do the right thing. The day had been long and tiring, but even amid the darkness of doubt, Sam's determination remained alive. He wasn't ready to give up, but the fight was far from over. With his watch still in his pocket, he got up, determined to continue the search the next day. He knew he had to find a way to overcome this first obstacle because, deep down, he believed that honesty and integrity were more valuable than any amount of money the watch could offer. After a whole day full of frustration and disappointment, Sam decided that he couldn't allow himself to give up. The struggle to find the owner of the watch continued to consume him, and although the weight of doubt followed him, a flame of hope began to ignite in his heart. In that difficult moment, he remembered something his grandmother used to say, "Every journey begins with a single step, and every step is worth taking, even if the destination is unclear." The next morning, he decided to visit a jewelry store he used to frequent. The owner, Fred, was always friendly and often helped him with tips on what to sell. On entering the store, Sam was greeted by Fred, who was organizing some pieces on a shelf. Good to see you. What did you bring today?" Fred asked, looking at Sam's tired smile. "Good morning, Fred. Actually, I didn't bring anything, but I did find a luxury watch, and I'm trying to find out who owns it," Sam replied, hoping that this conversation would be different. He took the watch out of his bag and placed it carefully on the counter. The light reflected off the gleaming gears and meticulously crafted details. Fred looked closely, impressed. "Wow, that's a beautiful watch. It's probably from someone who bought it here in town. Have you thought about going to the jewelry store downtown? Those stores always have an exclusive clientele. And maybe they know the owner," suggested Fred, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "They might even register the watch, and maybe a customer will have missed it. It's worth a try." Fred's words penetrated Sam's heart like a ray of sunshine on a cloudy day. It was exactly the kind of suggestion he needed. The jewelry store in the center was known for its quality and variety of high-end products. Sam, who often felt invisible in the big city, now felt that the possibility of doing the right thing was within his grasp. The idea that he might finally have a lead on the owner motivated him. "Do you really think they could know who the owner is?" asked Sam, his voice full of hope and expectation. Fred nodded enthusiastically. "Of course, if someone has lost such an exclusive watch, the jewelry store must surely be aware. And who knows, you might even find someone who remembers seeing it before they lost it." Sam thanked Fred and, with a new sparkle in his eyes, left the store. He walked through the streets, his heart racing, barely able to contain his excitement. It was as if the weight that had followed him for the last few days was beginning to dissipate. The idea of visiting the jewelry store and the hope of finding the owner of the watch kept him going. The city was alive around him, with people coming and going, busy in their daily routines. For Sam, everything seemed to have a new meaning. He took a deep breath, smelling the fresh bread from a nearby bakery and the scent of flowers in a garden store. Every step towards the jewelry store seemed to be a step closer to accomplishing what he had set out to do. Arriving at the jewelry store, Sam hesitated for a moment at the door. The window displayed luxurious watches and jewelry, a world that had always seemed far away from him. But now, with the watch in hand and the determination to do the right thing, he pushed open the door and stepped inside. The ringing of the bell at the entrance announced his presence and immediately drew the attention of the attendants, who watched him with curious eyes. An elegant woman with well-combed hair and a friendly smile approached him. "Good morning. How can I help you?" Sam looked at the watch in her hand and took a deep breath. "I found this watch and I'm trying to find out who owns it. A friend suggested that perhaps you could help me find the person who lost it." The attendant examined the watch, her eyes lighting up with recognition. "Ah, that really is a unique watch. Let me check if we have any record of who bought it. If it was bought here, we should have some information." As she headed for the computer, Sam felt a mixture of anxiety and hope. Time seemed to be dragging on, but the possibility that his search was finally about to bear fruit excited him. He looked around the jewelry store, admiring the beauty of the pieces on display and dreaming of a future where he could give something better to his grandchildren. "Here it is," the clerk exclaimed, bringing Sam back to reality. The watch was bought by a customer called Mr. Taylor. He's a local businessman and may have missed it. Sam's heart raced. Finally, he had a clue. "Where can I find him?" he asked, almost unable to contain his excitement. "He usually visits the store on Saturdays. I believe he'll be here next weekend," replied the clerk, jotting down Mr. Taylor's address on a piece of paper. Sam thanked her effusively, feeling that the tide was finally turning. Leaving the jewelry store, hope shone again in his heart. He still had a way to go, but now, with the information in hand and a possible contact, Sam felt more determined than ever. He knew that this small victory could turn into something great. The watch, which had once been just a symbol of doubt, now became a step towards realizing a dream, doing the right thing, and, perhaps, changing his life in the process. With the paper in hand and a new sense of purpose, Sam walked through the streets, confident that the journey would not only lead him to the owner of the watch, but could also open doors he had never imagined existed. The determination that accompanied him was palpable, and what had seemed like a distant dream now became a tangible reality, pulsing in his heart. The day finally arrived. Sam woke up with a mixture of excitement and nervousness, anticipation following him like a shadow. He was about to meet Mr. Taylor, the owner of the luxury watch he had found. As he looked in the mirror, he noticed the marks of time on his face, but behind them was a spark of determination. Today could be the day when everything changes, he thought, putting on his cleanest shirt and wiping down his pants. He wanted to make a good impression. After a quick breakfast, Sam set off for the jewelry store, his watch tucked carefully away in his bag. The sun was shining brightly, illuminating the city and making the surrounding colors seem more vivid. The walk to the jewelry store seemed shorter than ever, and he felt lighter, as if he were floating. Every step he took towards the jewelry store was a step closer to closure and a new beginning. As he entered the jewelry store, the ringing of the bell brought a wave of nostalgia. The store was even more impressive than he remembered. Glittering jewels adorned the shelves, and the scent of leather and polish filled the air. Sam made his way to the counter, where the clerk greeted him with a smile. Are you here to see Mr. Taylor?" "Yes," replied Sam, trying to keep his composure. "I'd like to return a watch that belongs to him." The attendant looked at the watch he had brought and nodded. "Great, he's in a meeting at the moment, But as soon as it's over, I'll let you know. Can you wait here?" Sam agreed and sat down in one of the available chairs, nervous but excited. Time began to drag. Every minute seemed like an eternity, and the wait began to feel like an ordeal. Meanwhile, his mind kept wandering. He looked at the watch in his hand and thought about everything that had happened. The desire to do the right thing was strong, but the fear of the unknown also haunted him. What if he doesn't want his watch back? What if, instead of thanking me, he despises me? Sam thought, suffocated by a wave of insecurity. He allowed himself to imagine what might happen, and each scenario was darker than the last. The idea that he could be misunderstood made him feel a knot in his stomach. He wasn't a criminal. He was just trying to do the right thing. After a long wait, the attendant appeared again. "Sorry about the wait, Sam. Mr. Taylor is still busy, but I can see if he can take a look at you. Is everything all right?" Sam nodded, but his anxiety began to rise. An influential man like Mr. Taylor might not have time for a simple street vendor. What if he doesn't care about the watch? What if he ignores me? These thoughts began to invade her mind. Finally, the attendant returned and said, "He can see you now. Please follow me." Sam stood up, his heart racing. The walk to Mr. Taylor's office seemed long, each step echoing in his mind. He remembered his grandmother's words about courage and perseverance. But as he approached the office door, uncertainty plagued his thoughts again. The receptionist opened the door and invited him in. The office was spacious, decorated with understated elegance, and sitting behind a large wooden desk was Mr. Taylor. The man was imposing, with a penetrating gaze that conveyed power and confidence. Sam felt a chill in his stomach. "Now what do I say?" he thought. "Mr. Taylor, this is Sam," said the clerk, introducing him. "He found your watch." Mr. Taylor looked at Sam, his eyebrows arched in curiosity. "You found my watch?" He leaned back in his chair, appraising the man in front of him. Sam, trying to control his anxiety, stepped forward. "Yes, sir. I found it on the sidewalk and I'd like to return it to you." He took the watch out of his bag and placed it on the table carefully, as if he were handing over a sacred treasure. Mr. Taylor took the watch, examining it carefully, and Sam watched his expression change from surprise to a mixture of doubt and skepticism. "And why haven't you decided to sell it?" "This watch could be worth a considerable amount," Mr. Taylor asked, his eyes fixed on Sam. The peddler hesitated, the words seeming to escape his throat. "Because it's the right thing to do," he finally replied. "I can't keep something that doesn't belong to me." Mr. Taylor looked at him for a long moment, and Sam felt vulnerable under the influential man's gaze. "You're an honest man, Sam, but life isn't so simple. People will tell you that it's easier to follow the path of profit. Why not go for it?" The question was challenging, and doubts began to resonate in his mind. "Because, sir, my dignity is worth more than any amount of money," said Sam, his voice steadying. "I don't want to teach my grandchildren that it's acceptable to take advantage of others. They need to know that honesty is fundamental." Mr. Taylor watched him intently, and the tension in the air seemed palpable. Sam felt as if he were on a test, each word carefully weighed for its worth. But then a silence fell between them, and Mr. Taylor's gaze began to soften. However, the wait for an answer seemed interminable, and the uncertainty of his reaction made Sam's heart race. And so, with his watch in hand, Sam found himself caught in a sea of emotions and challenges. Life had put him to the test in a way he had never imagined, and despite his efforts to do the right thing, he didn't know if he would be able to get the reward he craved. The future was looming, and once again he found himself at a turning point, wondering if it was worth continuing to fight for what he believed in. As Sam waited for Mr. Taylor's reply, the tension in the air was palpable. The watch glowed in the light of the office, and the hope of returning the object to its rightful owner was mixed with the uncertainty that hung over his head. Mr. Taylor's gaze, once curious, now seemed distant, as if he were considering not only the watch, but also Sam's very essence. The silence stretched on, and Sam began to feel frustration building up inside him. What should have been a moment of satisfaction was turning into a test of patience. The feeling that he could have done something great was beginning to fade, and the doubt about his decision to seek out the owner of the watch weighed heavily on his heart. The thought that all his efforts might be in vain began to undermine him. Finally, Mr. Taylor raised his head and looked at Sam. "It's an admirable gesture, but you have to understand that the world isn't always fair," he said, his voice carrying a tone of harsh reality. Life puts us in situations where choices are difficult. You may be thinking that honesty is the answer, but people often don't care about that. The businessman's words penetrated deep into Sam's mind. He began to wonder if he was being naive. What if Mr. Taylor was right? What if all my efforts were just leading me down a blind alley, he thought. Self-criticism assailed him, and the idea that he might have made the wrong choice began to creep into his mind. It was at that moment that an employee of the jewelry store, who until then had been in the background, approached him. "Excuse me, but I overheard the conversation and I have a suggestion." Sam turned around, curious and at the same time apprehensive. "If you're really in need of money, why don't you sell the watch on a parallel market? You could get a good price for it." The clerk's words hit Sam like a punch in the gut. The temptation to give in to the suggestion was strong, especially considering his financial difficulties. "A parallel market?" he repeated, the idea beginning to germinate in his mind. "You mean selling to someone who wouldn't care where it came from?" The proposal sounded tempting and dangerous at the same time. "Yes, think about it," continued the clerk, sensing the conflict in Sam's eyes. "That watch is valuable, and you could really use that money to pay off your debts. Why get hung up on this concept of doing the right thing? Life is complicated, and sometimes you have to be practical." The clerk smiled, as if offering him a simple solution to a complex problem. Sam felt his mind churning. The possibility of selling the watch and solving his financial problems was in front of him, shining like the very watch he was holding. The internal struggle he was facing became a whirlwind of emotions. On the other hand, he thought, "That's not who I am. How can I look at my grandchildren and say I took the easy way out?" The temptation to sell the watch began to eat away at his spirit. He visualized the bills that kept coming in, the worried looks on his grandchildren's faces when he talked about money, and the mounting pressure of his debts. The idea of paying it all off seemed so seductive, so close. "I could solve all this with one simple move. What if I can't find the owner?" reflected Sam, increasingly lost. With a deep sigh, he looked at the watch in his hand. The numbers glittered in the light of the room, and every second that passed seemed to intensify his indecision. "If I sell, I'll never know what could have happened. And if I feel bad about it, I could lose what really matters," he thought, remembering what his grandmother had always taught him about dignity and integrity. With this reflection, Sam realized that giving into temptation would not only take him away from what he really wanted to do, but would also ruin everything he had fought for. "I can't do that. I can't become what I've always criticized," he decided, his voice growing stronger. He looked at the clerk and said firmly, "I appreciate the suggestion, but I'm not going to sell the watch. I need to find it. The owner?" Sam's response took the clerk by surprise. The expression on the man's face changed from disbelief to a kind of respect, but also frustration. "You may be missing out on a great opportunity," he said, but Sam didn't let himself be shaken. He had made his decision, even if it meant continuing to face the hard road. With a heavy but determined heart, Sam left the jewelry store, the weight of the watch now mixing with the weight of frustration. The hope he had felt that morning was being challenged by a series of doubts and difficulties. The road ahead seemed cloudier than ever, but at least he knew he was doing the right thing. As he left the jewelry store, he took a deep breath, feeling that the fresh air of the street might help him clear his mind. Sam knew it wouldn't be easy, but the value of his integrity was worth it. Every step he took him to a place where he could finally find his purpose. And even in the face of temptation and frustration, he remained steadfast in his quest, willing to face whatever came his way. The journey was just beginning, and he wasn't ready to give up. With his mind still clouded by the jewelry store clerk's suggestions and the mounting pressure of his financial difficulties, Sam turned away from the store and walked through the city streets, where life continued at its frenetic pace. The sun was high, but the light didn't seem to bring the usual warmth. On the contrary, there was an inner chill that accompanied him. Every step he took seemed to resonate with the struggle going on inside him, a conflict between what was easy and what was right. As he walked, Sam found himself reflecting on his life and the lessons he had learned over the years. His parents' voices echoed in his mind, especially the lessons his mother had always taught him about the importance of honesty and dignity. "Being honest can be hard, my son, but it's what keeps you going when the storms of life come," she would say, with that deep look in her eyes that conveyed wisdom and love. He remembered every moment when she emphasized the need to be true to oneself and to others. regardless of the circumstances. Why am I letting the pressure of money make me doubt who I am? Thought Sam, his mind turning away from financial worries to what really mattered. He stopped for a moment in a square, where children were playing and adults were chatting happily. The sound of happiness around him contrasted with the internal storm he felt. Sam watched the children laughing and playing, remembering how important it was to give them a positive example, something he himself had always wanted to follow. If I give up now, what will I be teaching them? He asked himself. Life isn't just about money, it's about how we behave, how we treat others, and how we stick to our principles. The thought comforted him, like a warm hug on a cold day. He realized that his search for the owner of the watch was not just a question of returning a lost object. It was a journey towards reaffirming his dignity and values. Sam then remembered a specific moment from his childhood when he had found a wallet lying on the ground while playing with his friends. At the time, he thought how easy it could be to take the money, but something inside him stopped him. He took the wallet to the police, and after a few days, the family who had lost the wallet came up to him and thanked him. The look of gratitude on their faces gave him an immense joy that no amount of money could buy. The real reward is in the satisfaction of doing the right thing, he recalled. With this epiphany, determination began to strengthen within him. He decided that even if he never found the owner of the watch, he wouldn't let frustration and doubt divert him from his path. Maintaining my dignity and being true to my principles is worth more than any financial reward I could gain from this watch, he thought, feeling a wave of relief. Sam looked up at the sky, where the clouds were beginning to dissipate, revealing a radiant sun. I'm here to be an example to my grandchildren and everyone around me, he thought, as a new sense of purpose enveloped him. The idea of maintaining integrity, even in the midst of challenges, became the driving force of his journey. He realized that the search for the owner of the watch was also a search for himself, for his identity, and for everything he believed to be important. Taking a deep breath, Sam felt that every challenge he had faced so far was shaping not only his character, but also the way he saw life. He understood that by choosing the path of honesty, he was becoming a role model for others and, above all, for himself. With every step he took, the certainty that he was on the right path grew within him. Reinforced by this new perspective, Sam decided that he would pursue the owner of the watch to the end, regardless of the difficulties. It doesn't matter if it takes days, months, or even years, he promised himself. I'll keep searching because it's what's right, and that search defines me. He felt invigorated, as if he had found a new source of energy and motivation. The fight was far from over, but now he was better prepared to face whatever came his way. With this renewal of spirit, Sam moved on, determined to continue his quest. He knew that what really mattered was not material possessions or what people thought of him, but the satisfaction that came from doing the right thing. The journey continued, and with each step, he reaffirmed his integrity and his identity. After all, true wealth is not measured in money, but in the values we hold in our hearts. After a moment of deep reflection, Sam felt that determination had firmly taken hold within him. The day was beautiful, with a clear blue sky and a gentle breeze caressing his face. He felt lighter, as if he had left behind the shadow of doubt that accompanied him. With a new sense of purpose, he decided it was time to return to the jewelry store and leave his contact details so that the owner of the watch could find him. The walk to the jewelry store was different this time. Sam walked with his head held high and his heart full of hope. He had already decided that if Mr. Taylor wasn't available, he wasn't going to let it get to him. He had a plan. When he arrived at the jewelry store, the ringing of the bell on the door echoed like a symphony of welcome, and the clerk recognized him immediately. "Hi, Sam. Back already? Mr. Taylor isn't here yet, but can I help you with something?" asked the clerk, her warm tone conveying the feeling that Sam wasn't just another customer, but someone special. "Yes, I'd like to leave my contact details. If Mr. Taylor could meet me when he gets back, I'd be very grateful," Sam replied, hope shining in his eyes. He then gave her his phone number and asked her to let him know as soon as the businessman was available. "Of course, I'll make a note of it. We'll be in touch as soon as he arrives," she said, as she wrote it down carefully. Sam felt a weight come off his shoulders. He had done his part, and now all he could do was wait. But waiting wasn't enough for him. Sam wanted to do more. As he walked through the streets towards his neighborhood, an idea began to form in his mind. He remembered the conversations he'd had with customers and the importance of spreading the word about what he'd found. Determined, Sam stopped at an office supply store and bought a pad of paper and some colored pens. If I'm going to find the owner of the watch, I need a plan of action, he thought, sitting down at a small table in the nearby square. He began writing a leaflet that would describe the watch and how he had found it. He jotted down important details. Well-known brand watch, leather strap, found on the sidewalk in front of the fruit stand. If you are the owner, please contact me. After finishing the flyer, Sam made copies and started distributing them to stores, cafes, and other busy spots around the city. If anyone knows anything, they can help me, he thought, his determination renewed with every person he met. He approached local shopkeepers, asking if they could hang the leaflets in their stores. Many of them agreed with a smile, admiring his attitude. It's really admirable what you're doing, Sam. I hope you find the owner soon, said a lady who owned a flower shop as she hung one of the leaflets in a window. Sam thanked her, feeling warmed by the words of encouragement. As he handed out the flyers, he not only felt that he was doing the right thing, but he also realized that he was building a support network. Every time someone accepted a leaflet, there was an exchange of hope and good intentions. He felt that, somehow, he was bringing the community together, one step at a time. After a few hours, Sam sat on a bench in the square, exhausted but satisfied. The feeling that he was doing something meaningful filled him with unexpected joy. Regardless of when or if I find the owner of the watch, I already feel that this journey has a purpose, he reflected. What matters is that I'm acting in accordance with the values I stand for. He looked around, watching people pass by. Everyone had their own stories and challenges, and he was reminded of the power of human connection. Maybe, somehow, my quest for this watch will become more than just returning an object. It could be a symbol of how honesty and integrity can bring people together, he thought, a smile forming on his lips. With the afternoon approaching, Sam decided to head home. He knew that waiting for an answer could take time, but he was prepared for it. As he walked, he felt more confident than ever. Regardless of the outcome, he had found new meaning in his journey. And so the story of the street vendor who found a luxury watch became one of resilience, hope, and the search for dignity in a world often dominated by haste and profit. With a heart full of determination, Sam returned home, ready to face any challenge that might come his way, convinced that maintaining his integrity and dignity was the real reward. And instead of letting frustration get the better of him, he had chosen to move forward one step at a time. The days passed at a slow pace, and Sam found himself caught between anticipation and anxiety. With every ring of his cell phone, his heart raced, but the days turned into weeks, and he still hadn't received any news from the jewelry store. He continued his daily routine, selling his products on the streets, but the constant anticipation of a call made him restless. The watch he had found was a constant presence in his mind, and the hope of returning it to its owner kept his determination burning. It was an ordinary morning when, just as he was finishing his coffee, Sam's cell phone rang. He almost dropped his cup, his heart pounding like a drum. He looked at the screen, and the name of the jewelry store appeared. Finally, he thought, as he picked up the phone, his hands shaking with anxiety. Please let it be good news. Hello, he answered, trying to hide the trembling in his voice. Good morning, Sam. This is Clara from the jewelry store. Do you remember me? The attendant's voice sounded friendly, but Sam felt a chill in his stomach. Yes, of course, Clara. What's new? He could barely hide the urgency in his words. Mr. Taylor would like to meet with you. He was very interested to hear about the watch you found. Can you come to the jewelry store today? Clara's statement brought a mixture of joy and concern to Sam. He wasn't sure what to expect from this meeting. Yes, of course. I'll be there soon, she replied, trying to keep her composure. As soon as he hung up, a wave of emotions washed over him. He was about to meet the man who could transform his life, but doubt and fear began to creep into his mind. What if he doesn't like me? What if he doesn't care about the watch? What if I don't know what to say? Insecurity hung over him, and the fear of being rejected began to set in. Sam decided he needed to prepare himself. He looked in the mirror, adjusted his shirt, and took a deep breath. You could do this, Sam. Remember who you are and what you stand for, he told himself, seeking courage. He thought of the lessons in honesty his mother had taught him and the determination that had brought him this far. It's not just about the watch, it's about my integrity. As he walked towards the jewelry store, the road seemed longer than ever. Each step increased his anxiety, but also his determination. I'm going to stay true to myself, no matter what. I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do, he thought, as he remembered the smiles on his grandchildren's faces. He imagined how proud they would be of him, knowing that his grandfather was doing the right thing. Arriving at the jewelry store, Sam felt a chill in his stomach, but a flame of hope kept him warm. He walked in, the ringing of the bell echoing in the silent store, and was immediately greeted by Clara. "Hi, Sam. Mr. Taylor is waiting for you. You can go straight to his office," she said, an encouraging smile on her lips. Sam took a deep breath and headed for the office. The door was ajar, and he hesitated for a moment, hearing voices inside. "What am I doing here?" he thought. "What if he doesn't like me? What if there's no reward for what I'm doing?" But with the determination of a man who knew he was doing the right thing, he pushed the door open and stepped inside. Mr. Taylor was sitting at his desk, looking at a document, but looked up when he heard Sam's entrance. "Ah, you must be Sam," said the businessman, his voice firm, but with a hint of curiosity. "Sit down, please." Sam settled into the chair opposite, his mind racing. "Thank you for seeing me, Mr. Taylor," he said, trying to appear calm. "I found your watch, and I'm happy to return it." The businessman looked at the watch on the table, his expression becoming thoughtful. "I really appreciate what you've done," began Mr. Taylor, his tone softer. "Many people in your position would have sold the watch without a second thought. You're a man of principle, and that's rare." The compliment surprised Sam, but he still felt nervous. "I just did what I thought was right. Honesty is important to me, especially since I want to set a good example for my grandchildren," Sam replied, his confidence growing as he spoke. "I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try to find you." "I see," said Mr. Taylor, leaning forward, interested. "What do you tell me about your life, Sam? How did you end up becoming a traveling salesman?" The question took him by surprise, but he took the opportunity to share his story. He talked about his daily struggle, his dreams, and how he always strove to be honest in everything he did. As he spoke, he began to feel more at ease. The fear that had consumed him before began to dissipate, and he realized that the meeting was becoming more human and less threatening. The conversation flowed, and Sam felt listened to, respected. At the end of the conversation, Mr. Taylor stood up, extending his hand. "Sam, I admire your integrity. I believe we should always reward those who do good. I want to offer you a reward not only for the watch, but also for the person you are. How about an investment in your small business?" Sam was speechless. The final challenge he had imagined had turned into a crucial decision. Not only had he returned the watch, but he had won the trust and respect of an influential man. Uncertainty still existed, but now, looking at Mr. Taylor, he saw a new hope for the future. Sam's heart was pounding as he sat down in the chair opposite Mr. Taylor. The anticipation that had accompanied him so far was now mixed with a wave of nervousness. The businessman looked at him with an expression that was a combination of curiosity and suspicion. "So, did you really find my watch?" asked Mr. Taylor, his tone direct, almost defiant. "Yes, sir," replied Sam, trying to remain calm. "I found it on the sidewalk, almost hidden under a fruit stand." He hesitated for a moment, feeling the tension in the air. "I decided I should return it to its rightful owner, because it's the right thing to do." The businessman tilted his head, but his gaze remained skeptical. "It's easy to say that you're here out of good intentions. But what guarantees that you're not just interested in the value of the watch? You know how much it's worth, don't you?" The accusation, though subtle, cut like a blade. Sam felt a chill in his stomach and his chest tightened. The idea that Mr. Taylor might think he was just looking for a reward left him desolate. "No, sir. That's not what I'm after," Sam replied, his voice a little shaky. "I'm just a traveling salesman. I have no interest in easy money. The only thing I want is to do the right thing." His sincerity was genuine, but the doubt in Mr. Taylor's expression made him wonder if his honesty was enough. Sam remembered all the difficulties he had faced throughout his life. He wasn't there for the watch or the value it could offer, but for the integrity he had always sought to maintain. "I have grandchildren, and I want them to know that honesty is the way. I can't keep something that doesn't belong to me," Sam explained, feeling the need to convey his truth. Mr. Taylor continued to watch him, and the silence stretched on for a moment that seemed to last an eternity. Sam felt exposed, as if he were standing in a courtroom, awaiting sentencing. Doubts began to invade his mind again. What if I can't convince him? What if it's all for nothing? These questions tormented him, and the weight of the situation seemed to crush him. "I understand that life can be difficult, Mr. Taylor finally said, his voice now a little softer. But I can't ignore the fact that many people would be willing to do the opposite of what you're doing. Why should you be any different? The question struck him deeply. Sam felt that his reasons, so firm in his mind, needed to be said out loud, and he decided that he wouldn't let himself be shaken. Because that's the way I am. From an early age, my parents taught me to value honesty. I don't just want to sell products. I want to live with integrity. For me, it's more important than any monetary value I could earn. He spoke with the passion of someone who truly believed in what he was saying. Every word was a declaration of who he was, and as he said it, he felt a weight being lifted off his shoulders. Mr. Taylor paused for a moment, seeming to consider Sam's words. He looked at the clock on the table, as if this object could contain the truth of the conversation. "So you expect nothing in return, except to do the right thing?" he asked, his voice revealing a trace of vulnerability. "Exactly, sir," replied Sam, his confidence beginning to strengthen again. "I'm not here for rewards. I'm here to give back what's yours. The value of that watch is nothing compared to what it means to me. I'd like my grandchildren to know that real value lies in honesty and good deeds." The atmosphere in the room began to change. Mr. Taylor's gaze, which had previously been suspicious, began to soften. Sam felt that, for a moment, he had achieved something, but the challenge was far from over. The initial doubt had left a mark on his mind, and what could have been an achievement now seemed like a battle to be won. "I appreciate your sincerity, Sam," said Mr. Taylor, his expression now more contemplative. "It's rare to find someone who really values such things these days. But the question remains, do you really have no interest in a reward?" Sam felt a new weight on his shoulders. Doubt once again threatened his resolve. He had to remind himself why he was there. "No, sir, not really. I just want to do what's right. I believe that's more important than anything else." After a long pause, Mr. Taylor leaned back in his chair, watching Sam with a new gaze, as if he were seeing him for the first time. "You're a man of character, and that shouldn't be underestimated. What you've done is valuable, much more than you can imagine." The conversation had changed tone, but Sam was still under the shadow of his initial mistrust. He felt as if he was on the verge of a great victory, but also on the verge of defeat. What had begun as a quest to return a watch was now turning into a struggle to validate his integrity. He wondered if, in the end, he would succeed not only in returning the watch, but also in winning Mr. Taylor's trust. Feeling that the tension was palpable, Sam stood firm, waiting for the decision that could change the course of his life. He knew that the fight was not over and that the true test of his courage was about to begin. Every breath prepared him for what would come next. And with that, he remembered that, regardless of the outcome, his choice to remain true to himself was the greatest achievement he could attain. The air in the jewelry store's meeting room was charged with tension, and Sam felt the weight of each passing second. Looking into Mr. Taylor's eyes, he wondered if he would finally get the recognition he so desperately craved. The initial mistrust seemed to have dissipated, but the businessman still hadn't made a final decision on the fate of the watch or Sam. Mr. Taylor looked at the watch again, and for a moment, his face lit up with a smile. "You know, Sam, it's not just business that defines us, but also our actions and values. What you did here today really touched me. It's rare to find someone who puts honesty before any reward." Sam felt his heart racing, hope beginning to emerge in his mind. "So, you're not going to," he started to say, but was interrupted. "No, I'm not just going to ignore it," said Mr. Taylor, with a serious and firm look. "I want you to know that I value your integrity. Let me be clear, I don't just want to watch back. I want to help you." Mr. Taylor's words were like a ray of light, piercing the darkness of uncertainty that had surrounded Sam. He blinked, surprised. "Help how? I don't understand." Mr. Taylor leaned back in his chair, looking thoughtful. "I'm an entrepreneur, and I've always looked for mentors along my journey. Your character and determination remind me of when I started out. I would like to offer you not only a financial reward, but also mentoring. If you want to expand your small business, I'm willing to help you make that dream come true." Sam was speechless. The proposal was much more than he had ever imagined. "Do you want to help me expand my business?" he asked, trying to grasp the magnitude of the offer. The idea of having an experienced entrepreneur as a mentor was something he would never have considered possible. "Yes, exactly. I see potential in you, and I believe that with a little guidance, you can thrive. Your honesty is a valuable asset, And in a world where many prefer easy profit, you are a true example of ethics. I believe that together we can turn your small business into something meaningful, said Mr. Taylor, with a sparkle of enthusiasm in his eyes. What had seemed like a distant dream was now becoming a tangible reality. Sam felt tears of gratitude starting to form in his eyes. He had never imagined that the return of a simple watch would lead him to such a great opportunity. But sir, I'm just a traveling salesman. I don't know if I can really, he started to say, but was interrupted again. Sam, we all start somewhere. The key to success is the willingness to learn and grow. With your determination and my experience, we can make that happen. Let's work together to create a plan for your business and explore new opportunities, said Mr. Taylor, his voice encouraging. Sam felt a wave of emotion wash over him. This means a lot to me, sir. I don't know how to thank you. The words left his lips, but he knew that a simple thank you couldn't capture the depth of his gratitude. You don't have to thank me now, Sam. What you can do is seize this opportunity and dedicate yourself to your dream. This is your chance to shine, replied Mr. Taylor with a friendly smile. We can meet once a week to discuss progress and work on the ideas you have for your business. Plus, I'll introduce you to some contacts who can help you expand your network. Mr. Taylor's words were like music to Sam's ears. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. A new life was opening up before him, a life where he could finally free himself from the limitations that surrounded him. He visualized a small business growing, attracting new customers, and, most importantly, being an example to his grandchildren. I'm going to do my best, sir. I'm going to work hard to make this happen. This is the chance I've always wanted, said Sam, his voice now firm and full of determination. Mr. Taylor held out his hand, and Sam shook it, feeling the strength of that connection. The watch he returned was not just a material object. It was the key to a new opportunity, a bridge between what was and what could be. Gratitude and hope filled his heart as he left the jewelry store, the feeling that the future was shining before him. Sam walked out into the bright streets of the city center, the weight he had carried for so long now replaced by a new burden, the burden of hope and determination. He was about to embark on a journey that would not only change his life, but could also impact his family and his community. With a beaming smile on his face and a new plan in mind, Sam began to walk towards his future, ready to face the challenges ahead, with the certainty that, with honesty and hard work, any dream could be achieved. The watch he had found had become the symbol of a transformation he had never imagined possible, and the journey was only just beginning. With Mr. Taylor's support, Sam's life began to transform in ways he could never have imagined. The guidance of the entrepreneur, who had now become a mentor, gave Sam the confidence and tools he needed to expand his small business. What was once just a daily struggle on the city streets was now becoming a promising venture. During his first meetings with Mr. Taylor, Sam felt like a sponge, absorbing every piece of advice and strategy his mentor offered. They discussed everything from the importance of a good presentation to how to use social media to reach new customers. Mr. Taylor introduced him to other entrepreneurs and encouraged him to attend local fairs, where he could showcase his products and make valuable connections. With each new idea, Sam's vision for the future of his business began to take shape. He began to dedicate himself to creating a physical space where he could sell his products more efficiently. Finally, after weeks of planning and hard work, he found a small place to rent, a store on a busy street that he would never have imagined being able to access before. It was an opportunity that had seemed like a distant dream, but was now within his grasp. The move wasn't easy. Sam worked tirelessly to transform the place. He painted the walls in vibrant colors, organized the shelves with the products he sold, and decorated the space with a personal touch that reflected his personality. Every detail was carefully thought out, as he wanted customers to feel like they were entering a special place. On the day of the opening, anticipation was in the air. Sam remembered the nervousness he felt when he opened the door for the first time, but when he looked around, he saw what he had built with so much effort. He had gone from being a street vendor to the owner of his own store. A satisfied smile lit up his face, and the feeling of accomplishment was indescribable. That morning, Sam also started using the techniques Mr. Taylor had taught him. He held a special opening event, inviting friends, family, and even the regular customers he knew from his previous life as a street vendor. The day was a success, and people started arriving. Smiling faces and cheerful voices filled the store. bringing a warmth that made Sam's heart beat faster. "Hi, Sam. You've outdone yourself. What an amazing place," exclaimed Miguel, the owner of the cafe where Sam used to have breakfast. Miguel's approval meant a lot to him, and Sam smiled at the words of encouragement. "Thank you all for being here. This dream wouldn't be possible without the support of each and every one of you," Sam told the audience, his voice full of emotion. He told the audience a little about his journey, about the clock that brought him there, and about the importance of honesty and perseverance. "I hope this place is a reflection of what we can achieve when we work together and keep our values in mind," he added. As the weeks went by, Sam's store began to attract new customers. He dedicated himself to offering quality products, always with a genuine smile on his face. The space that was once just a store became a meeting place for the community. People came not only to buy, but also to talk, exchange ideas, and share stories. Sam realized that he had created a welcoming environment that reflected who he was. Through local fairs and events, Sam expanded his clientele even further. He partnered with other vendors, created promotions, and, most importantly, maintained constant communication with his customers. Every interaction became an opportunity to learn and grow. He was becoming an entrepreneur, not just in the financial sense, but as someone who contributed to the community. In addition, his personal life began to transform too. With the improvement in his finances, Sam was able to better support his family. He remembered the promises he had made to his grandchildren and began to provide them with small joys, such as outings and activities that had previously only been a distant dream. The happiness he saw on his children's faces fueled his desire to continue prospering. "Grandpa, you're the best. Look at the beautiful store you have," his granddaughter Emily once exclaimed as she helped Sam organize some shelves. The pride he felt at that moment was indescribable. For Sam, the real reward was seeing his family happy and knowing that he was doing his best to ensure a better future for them. Mr. Taylor became a regular presence in the store, often visiting and offering advice. "I'm so proud of you, Sam. You've really taken what we talked about and put it into practice," he said on one of his visits, admiring the store. "I couldn't have done it without your help, sir. Your guidance made all the difference," replied Sam, with gratitude in his heart. The connection between the two had grown stronger over time, and Sam saw Mr. Taylor not just as a mentor, but as a friend. Now, looking at his busy store, Sam realized that the life he had always wanted was finally within reach. He had turned what could have been a loss into a new reality, full of opportunities. The watch he had found on the sidewalk was not just a precious object. It was the catalyst that had changed his life forever. Sam was determined to continue his journey, facing the challenges with courage and integrity. And as the store prospered and his life changed, he knew he was exactly where he should be, building a bright future for himself and his family, secure in the knowledge that honesty and determination will always pay off. As the sun set over the horizon, casting a golden warmth over the city, Sam found himself in his store, watching the customers coming in and out. The atmosphere was full of laughter and lively conversation, an environment he himself had helped to create. Every customer who came in was a new opportunity, a new story woven into the tapestry of his life. The scent of fresh produce and handmade crafts filled the air, and Sam couldn't help but feel a wave of gratitude for everything he had achieved. As he organized some merchandise, his memories went back to the difficult days when everything seemed like a struggle. He remembered the moment he found that luxurious watch and how that simple discovery had set him on an unexpected path. What could have been just a profit opportunity turned into a journey of self-discovery and personal fulfillment. He reflected on the moments of doubt, when temptations arose and the pressure to give in to the easy way became almost unbearable. "If I had sold that watch, where would I be now?" thought Sam, observing the movement around him. The answer was clear. He wouldn't be where he was. The honesty he chose to maintain, even in the face of difficulties, was what really shaped his trajectory. The decision to return the watch wasn't just about an object. It was about being true to himself and the values that sustained him. "Look, Grandpa, look what I've done!" Emily's voice interrupted his thoughts, and he turned to see his granddaughter holding a colorful drawing. "I made this for you," she exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. Sam smiled, a warmth spreading through his chest. The drawing represented the store, with a large smiling sun above it. It was a perfect representation of childhood happiness and innocence, a reminder that what he was doing was not just for himself, but for those he loved. "It's beautiful, my dear. You've captured everything." "Thank you, Emily," said Sam, kneeling down to take a closer look at the drawing. The purity of that expression of joy made him think of how his journey involved not only his own struggles, but also the legacy he was building for his grandchildren. "I hope you learn the importance of honesty and integrity," he murmured to himself, reflecting on the future he wanted for them. Over time, Sam realized that life wasn't just about material success, but about how to relate to others. He thought of Mr. Taylor and how the support and mentoring he received helped him expand his horizons. The experience of being true to himself and others had not only brought him success, but it also earned him lasting friendships and a sense of community he never imagined he would have. Night fell, and the store began to empty. Sam looked around, the shelves now empty and the store silent except for the soft hum of light. He sat down on the bench he now often occupied, a place that had become a symbol of his new beginning. The soft light illuminated his face as he reflected on his journey. "It's been a long road, but every challenge has been worth it," he thought. He realized that the difficulties had shaped him in ways he could never have predicted. The perseverance and honesty he had chosen to follow were not just character traits. They were the foundations that underpinned his new life. "Today, more than ever, I know that life is made up of choices, and I made the right ones." Sam took a deep breath, feeling an inner peace he hadn't known before. He understood that as long as he stuck to his values and was true to himself, he could face any challenge life threw at him. He was a man of principle, and that, for him, was more valuable than any amount of money. "I hope my grandchildren remember me like this," he muttered to himself with a smile on his lips. The future was still uncertain, but the confidence that now inhabited his heart was unshakable. Gratefully, he got up and switched off the lights in the store, ready to go home. The path to the future seemed clearer, and, regardless of what came next, he knew that, just as he had done so far, he would continue to fight for his principles and the life he had always wanted. As he walked through the moonlit streets, Sam felt complete. He had found more than just a path to success. He had found a purpose. And this discovery, which began with a simple watch, turned into the most significant journey of his life. Sam was finally at peace, knowing that true wealth lay not in possessions, but in the values he held in his heart. The days passed, and Sam's store became a point of reference in a community. His success spread, and people often stopped to praise him, not just for the products, but for the integrity he had shown. Knowing he had a story to tell and a lesson to share, Sam decided to organize a small event in his store, inviting friends, family, and members of the community. He wanted to inspire others to believe in themselves, just as Mr. Taylor had believed in him. On the night of the event, the store was full of familiar and new faces, all eager to hear Sam's story. The lights were softly illuminated, creating a welcoming atmosphere. He positioned himself in a corner of the store, a little nervous but full of gratitude for being there. As he watched the people gathering, he felt his heart warm at the positive energy around him. "Thank you all for being here today," Sam began, his voice echoing with emotion. "When I started this journey, I never imagined that I would be standing here, talking to all of you. A few months ago, I was just a street vendor, struggling to make ends meet. But a single decision led me down a path that changed my life forever." The faces in the crowd showed attention and curiosity, and Sam continued to tell his story. He shared the difficulties he faced, from a search for the watch's owner to the unexpected support he received from Mr. Taylor. He described the moment when he almost gave in to the temptation to sell the watch, but how he decided to follow his heart and do what was right. "It's been a path full of challenges, but each one has taught me something valuable," he said. "Today, I want to remind you all of the importance of never losing hope. When the going gets tough and life seems like a maze, remember that honesty and perseverance are your greatest allies. They can open unexpected doors that you never thought possible. Life may present us with obstacles, but it's how we choose to face them that defines us," he continued, looking into the eyes of each person in the room. He paused, observing the reactions around him. "If I, a simple salesman, can transform my life, so can any of you." The words left his lips with a force that reverberated in the room, and a murmur of agreement ran through the audience. He was aware that his story was not unique, but he hoped that his example could serve as an inspiration to those who were struggling. Always remember that your actions count. No matter how small you feel or how difficult the journey may seem, every step you take towards integrity and honesty is a step towards your true self. And that true self is capable of incredible things, said Sam passionately. If we can all support each other and stand by our principles, together we can create a stronger, more united community. As he spoke, the energy in the room began to change. People began to be inspired by his words, and Sam realized that his story was resonating with many of those present. Don't be afraid to dream big. If something seems out of reach, remember that opportunities can arise in unexpected ways, just as they did for me, he emphasized as he looked at his granddaughter who was in the front row, her eyes shining with admiration. At the end of his speech, Sam felt an enormous sense of relief and gratitude. He had shared his truth and in return, had managed to touch other people's hearts. Let's all be a light to each other. Let's keep fighting for a world where honesty and kindness are the pillars that hold us up, he concluded, his heart warmed by the positive energy that permeated the room. The audience applauded enthusiastically, and Sam felt enveloped by a sense of community that he had always longed for. He knew his journey was far from over, but he was more than ready to face it with his head held high and his heart full of hope. He had become not just a salesman, but an example of perseverance and integrity to everyone around him. As the store lights went out and people began to disperse, Sam felt that his mission had only just begun. He had a renewed purpose and a supportive community. And as he looked to the future, he knew that whatever challenges he still faced, his journey would always be guided by honesty and determination. Life, with all its twists and turns, was an adventure he was eager to continue. As his business grew, Sam not only experienced an increase in sales, but also felt driven to give back to the community that had always supported him. He remembered the day he started selling as a street vendor and how every small gesture of kindness he received motivated him to keep going. Now it was time to make a difference to others in the same way that many had done for him. One morning, while organizing the products in his store, the idea of creating a community event took hold of his mind. Why not bring everyone together? We have so many incredible talents and stories here in the neighborhood, he thought, envisioning a fair where people could connect and celebrate the best of their community. Sam started planning the event, which he decided to call the Local Talent Fair. He invited artisans, musicians, and sellers of homemade products to join him. This event is going to be a great opportunity for all of us, he explained to a group of traders he knew. We're going to promote our products and show the beauty of what we have here. The excitement soon spread, and many pledged to take part. The day of the fair arrived, and Sam's store was transformed into a vibrant space. Colorful stalls were set up, with products ranging from local crafts to homemade treats. Musicians played in one corner, filling the air with cheerful melodies that drew people in. Sam's smile was infectious as he walked around the store, greeting visitors and supporting his friends and neighbors. He felt like a conductor, orchestrating an event that celebrated the community. "Grandpa, look how happy everyone is," exclaimed Emily, who had joined him to help organize things. Sam looked at his granddaughter, his eyes shining with pride. "It's true, darling. That's what happens when people get together and share what they have." He crouched down to make sure Emily was helping and not just having fun. "Let's make sure everyone feels welcome and knows they're at home here." With the event in full swing, Sam made a point of spending time with each exhibitor. He talked to a local artist who was selling paintings and encouraged him to show his work in a gallery. Then he chatted to a woman who made cakes and learned about her secret recipes. "You should do a demonstration of how you make these cakes. People would love that," suggested Sam, seeing the sparkle in her eyes. The atmosphere at the fair was one of pure joy, and the interaction between the participants was palpable. Sam felt happy to have created a space where people could connect, celebrate, and support each other. It was a moment he had always wanted for his community. As the event went on, Sam realized that this was the true essence of what he wanted to accomplish. Not just a business, but a place where people could feel valued and part of something bigger. The effort of giving back to the community now brought him a satisfaction that money could never buy. As the fair drew to a close, Sam addressed all the participants and visitors. "I want to thank each and every one of you for being part of this day. When we come together, we can do amazing things. Let's continue to support each other, just as we did today," he said, the emotion in his voice clear. As the fair drew to a close, Sam began to reflect on the importance of his family in this new phase. He knew that, as well as helping others, it was essential to teach his grandchildren about integrity, hard work, and the importance of helping others. At home, he sat down with Emily and her brother, Lucas, to share stories about his own journey. You know, whenever we face difficulties, we need to remember that sticking to our values is the most important thing, Sam began, his voice calm and serene. What I've learned is that when we do what's right, it not only helps us, but it can also make a difference in the lives of others. Emily's eyes were fixed on him, absorbing every word. "Grandpa, you always do the right thing. That's why you have so many friends," she commented, admiring her grandfather. Sam smiled, warmed by his granddaughter's affection. "It's true, but that's not all. Each one of us can make a difference, even in a small way. Never underestimate the power of a kind gesture." He then talked about how he had found the watch and the importance of giving back something that wasn't yours. "It brought me here, and now I have this store. Each of you can have your own story. The important thing is that you never give up and always help others," he said, seeing the determination on his children's faces. Night fell, and Sam's house was illuminated by a warm glow. They shared laughs and stories, and Sam felt a deep love and gratitude for everything he had achieved, not just in terms of success, but for the impact it could have on the lives of his family and his community. "Grandpa, when are we going to have another fair?" asked Lucas excitedly. Sam looked into his grandson's sparkling eyes and smiled. "Soon, my boy, and this time, we're going to do even better. We can always grow and learn together." With that, Sam felt that his mission was just beginning. Not only did he want to prosper in his business, but he also wanted to be an example of hope and kindness to everyone around him. He was determined to build a legacy of honesty and generosity that would inspire future generations. As the weeks turned into months, Sam's business grew exponentially. The local talent center, as he began to call his store, became a landmark in the community. People came from all over the city to see the unique products and to take part in the workshops he had started offering. Excitement was in the air, but with growth also came new challenges that would test his determination and resilience. One day, while organizing the stock, Sam received a visit from an acquaintance. Miguel, the cafe owner, entered the store, his eyes shining with excitement. "Sam, you won't believe it. A new craft store has opened a few blocks from here. They're offering products similar to yours at very low prices," said Miguel, with a tone of concern. Sam felt a wave of anxiety, as he had heard rumors about the new store. The idea of competition made him uneasy. "I knew it could happen," replied Sam, taking a deep breath to keep calm. "Competition can be healthy, but it means I have to work harder to keep my store attractive." Miguel agreed, but the worry was still visible on his face. "Just be careful, buddy. You've built something beautiful here, and I don't want to see you get lost in this price fight." Miguel's words echoed in Sam's mind as he pondered his options. What could he do to stand out in an ever-changing market? The idea of competing on price alone didn't appeal to him. He had always believed that quality and authenticity were more important than offering products at low prices. But he knew he had to be innovative. That evening, sitting at his desk, Sam began to draw up a new plan of action. He remembered Mr. Taylor's advice about the importance of understanding the market and customer needs. "I need to find out what customers really want and how I can offer something unique," he thought. With a new focus, he decided to conduct a survey of his customers to better understand what they were looking for. Over the next few days, Sam asked his customers a series of questions, collecting feedback on the products and services they would like to see in his store. The answers were valuable. Many people mentioned wanting to learn new skills such as crafts, cooking, and even gardening techniques. With this information in hand, Sam realized that he could turn his store into a real learning and exchange center. He started planning new workshops, not just to sell products, but to teach and train community members. Why not offer pottery, cooking, or painting classes, he pondered. Not only will this attract more customers, but it will also create a sense of community. He partnered with local artists and experts, ensuring that the classes were high quality and relevant. At the same time, Sam also began to notice the financial pressure that came with growing the business. Expenses increased with the hiring of new instructors and the purchase of materials for the workshops. Cash flow management became a constant concern, and Sam decided he needed to better understand the financial side of his business. So he sought the help of Mr. Taylor, who was happy to mentor him again. "Sam, financial management is just as important as the passion you put into your business," said Mr. Taylor at one of their meetings. let's review your budget and do some long-term planning so you can continue to grow without putting your financial health at risk. With Mr. Taylor's guidance, Sam learned about budgets, operating expenses, and investments. He made a list of priorities, focusing on where he could cut costs without compromising quality. Knowledge is as powerful as the product you sell, remembered Mr. Taylor, and Sam began to apply it in his daily life. In addition to classes and financial planning, Sam also decided that it was important to promote a spirit of collaboration among local traders. He remembered the importance of community and how everyone could benefit from working together. So he organized monthly meetings with other business owners in the area to discuss marketing strategies, promotions, and joint events. "When we join forces, we all win," said Sam at one of these meetings. The other traders agreed, and together they created a calendar of events to promote the area, attracting more visitors and customers. This not only benefited Sam's store, but also strengthened the bonds between the traders, fostering a real community spirit. As Sam's business prospered, he became an example of leadership and collaboration. His initiatives not only brought success to his store, but also inspired others to be more united and supportive. He realized that although there were challenges, the key was to adapt, innovate, and maintain a strong commitment to his values. One evening, as he watched the store full of happy people taking part in a pottery workshop, Sam felt fulfilled. He had transformed his store into a space where he not only sold products, but also created experiences and memories. The satisfaction that came from seeing people come together and learn was indescribable. "I'm not just a salesperson. I'm part of something bigger," Sam reflected, smiling to himself. He knew that, whatever challenges might yet arise, he was prepared to face them. With the strength of his community by his side and the determination to keep growing, he was confident that the future would bring even more opportunities and achievements. If you enjoyed this video, comment your age and tell us where in the world you're watching from. And if you'd like to see more content like this, we prepared the next video just for you. Click here to watch